I ask you all to support Imam Hussain TV for the future of your youth, for the future of Shiaism. Every single person's life is dependent on your education, and Imam Hussain TV provides you a free Islamic education.
If you want to have good programs, if you want to have a source to help your community, your children, your families, do not hesitate. This is the month of rewarding. This is the month of istighfar, the month of khayrat.
Imam Hussain is a name that unites us all, and this is the one area where we can put aside our differences and come together. I hope that the viewers at home will help donate to the channel and to build a platform for the future generations.
I stand here before you, my dear brothers and sisters, to invite one and all to donate generously to ensure that the message of Ahlul Bayt alayhimu salatu wassalam is kept alive.
Beautiful programs we have. One of that program is Shia Boys. The Shia Boys try to bring up talented from east, from west, from north, from south. But to show this, to make this program, it needs your donation. Your generous donation, please help, please support Imam Hussain TV.
We need your generous support. With your support, there could be more documentaries. With your support, there could be more programs. With your support, Shia Voice may come to your community. We cannot continue this without your generous donations. In this holy month of Ramadan, a month of charity, a month of giving, a month of generosity, come together, join us on Imam Hussain TV, and generously donate as you always have done, so we may continue to provide programs which serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and of course the holy household.
Imam Hussain Charity is giving you the chance to provide food baskets for destitute and impoverished families all over Iraq and Afghanistan. Each basket costs around £30, $35 roughly, and can feed a family of 4. The food basket contains essentials such as flour, bread, tomato puree, oil. They get different spices as well, salt, pepper, even like cinnamon. You get lentils. Get different vegetables, meats, dates, tea, dried lemons, and not forgetting rice. Take advantage of this blessed month and help destitute and impoverished families. You can pay via bank transfer, PayPal, or visit us at www.imamhussaincharity.com.
Give the gift of a healthy meal to a family in need by donating to our Food Basket campaign.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. People are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. Arguably, one of the greatest statements from one of the greatest leaders in history. That leader being Imam Ali alayhi salam, and our discussion of leadership and humanity in Nahjul Balagha. Because without a doubt, each and every one of us in our lives will always remember a great leader. Will always have a relationship with a great leader. Whether you're Muslim or a non-Muslim, you'll always find that leadership is something that you may even aspire to understand. At one stage or another, at school or at college or at university, we take courses on leadership. I know people who are in their 50s who continue to take courses on leadership, on management, on how you mobilize a group of people, on how you manage a group of people, on how you inspire a group of people. And that's why if you ask many human beings who they think are the top leaders in human history, Imam Ali's name is hardly mentioned. There are many other leaders who are mentioned, but you will not find them mentioning Imam Ali alayhi salam. I went on a website online, and on this website it had the names of 46 famous world leaders that your students should know. This is any 46 leaders in history. And when I was looking at the names of these 46 leaders, many of them, without a doubt, were great leaders. But something clear emerged for me, that where is Imam Ali's name? If I look, for example, it says number 1, Hammurabi, the first king of Babylon. Number 2, Hatshepsut, the Egyptian pharaoh. Number 3, Ramses II, Egyptian pharaoh. Number 4, Cyrus the Great, founder of the Achaemenid Empire. Number 5, Pericles, the Greek politician. Number 6, Alexander the Great. Number 7, you had, for example, Qin Shi Huang, the founder of the Qin dynasty. Number 8, Julius Caesar. Number 9, Cleopatra. Number 10, Caesar Augustus. Number 11, Constantine the Great. Even if I keep going down to other names, William the Conqueror, for example, Genghis Khan is mentioned. Joan of Arc is mentioned. Henry VIII is mentioned. Elizabeth I is mentioned. Catherine the Great is mentioned. George Washington is mentioned. Thomas Jefferson is mentioned. Napoleon is mentioned. You've got others, for example, over here, such as Abraham Lincoln, Queen Victoria. Again, you'll see Tsar Nicholas, for example. Mahatma Gandhi. I'm sure many of you would have come across his name when it comes to great leaders. Lenin, Winston Churchill, Joseph Stalin, Franklin Roosevelt, Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler. You've got Mao, for example, Nelson Mandela. All of these names in this whole list, not one mention of Imam Ali alayhi salam. Why? Once again, it comes down to one reason, and that is us as Muslims have cocooned Imam Ali alayhi salam for ourselves. Instead of sharing Imam Ali alayhi salam with the world and allowing the world to understand the great leadership skills of Imam Ali alayhi salam in Nahjul Balagha, many of us have not even bothered to open Nahjul Balagha. In our madrasa curriculum, if you were to look at the youth and you ask them in the madrasa on a Saturday or a Sunday, many of the youth go to a madrasa on Saturday or Sunday, an Islamic school. Many of our youth have never opened Nahjul Balagha until the age of 16. No teacher has even opened it for them. When our teachers are not opening Nahjul Balagha for our children, how then do we expect that the leadership and the character and the humanity of Imam Ali alayhi salam would go out to the world when none of our own people have studied Imam Ali's leadership and humanity? We all look for leaders who have a great level of understanding of humanity. When I say Imam Ali alayhi salam is a great leader with a great sense of understanding humanity, what I mean is that Imam Ali alayhi salam was not just a man who was a leader for the Muslim community. When Imam Ali was alive, were there Christians living in his time, or was it just Muslims? Were there Christians alive? Yes. There were Christians living in Kufa, or were there not? There were. Were there Jews living there at the time or not? Yes, there were. Were there atheists living in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam or not? Yes, there were. Were there polytheists living in the time of Imam Ali alayhi salam or not? Yes, there were. When Imam Ali alayhi salam became leader of the Muslim community, and we know how much Islam emphasized on leadership. How many different words can you give me for a type of leader in the Quran? How many different types of leaders has Allah sent in the Quran? Number 1, Nabi. Number 2, Rasul. Number 3, Khalifa. Number 4, Imam. Number 5, Ulil Amr. All of these are different types of leadership mentioned in the Quran. Look how much Islam emphasized on leadership. That you have prophets in the Quran, messengers in the Quran, caliphs in the Quran, rulers in the Quran, leaders in the Quran. The Quran at one stage talks of Nabi, talks of Rasul, talks of Wali, talks of Khalifa, talks of Malik, talks of Ulil Amr. One of the best books for leadership is the Quran, and complemented by Nahjul Balagha. But Imam Ali alayhi salam, if I was to ask you, where in Nahjul Balagha is the greatest example of the leadership and the soft-heartedness and the humanity of Imam Ali alayhi salam, where would you tell me? In Nahjul Balagha. There is one letter that stands out above all documents in Nahjul Balagha. It is so important that in the 50th anniversary of the United Nations Declaration, Kofi Annan referenced this letter. Probably Kofi Annan knew more about this letter of Imam Ali in Nahjul Balagha than those who call themselves the followers of Imam Ali alayhi salam. And that letter is letter number 53 in Nahjul Balagha, where Imam Ali writes a letter to his companion by the name of Malik al-Ashtar. His companion Malik al-Ashtar, Imam Ali comes forward with instructions on leadership and on how to treat humanity and how to be a good human being with the subjects under your leadership to Malik al-Ashtar. Many of you would have heard of Malik al-Ashtar. Imam Ali used to say, Malik is to me like I was to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. How great is that hadith for Malik? Malik was to me like I was to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. How close was Imam Ali to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi? How close? Is there anyone closer to the Holy Prophet Muhammad than Imam Ali alayhi salam? No. He said, Malik was to me like I was to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi. Malik was originally from Yemen. He moved to the land of Kufa. He is known as Al-Ashtar. Why? Al-Ashtar is not his surname. Al-Ashtar was because of an injury that he had on the battlefield, either in Rome or in Yarmouk. He had an injury in his eye. He was called Al-Ashtar. This Malik al-Ashtar, Imam Ali alayhi salam, when Imam Ali became Khalifa, I ask you, Imam Ali became Khalifa 25 years after Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi died. So 25 years after the Prophet Muhammad had died, Imam Ali had become Khalifa. When he had become Khalifa, was the Islamic empire small or was it big? How big was it? It was a vast empire. Islam wasn't just concentrated in Mecca High Street or Medina Avenue. Islam had now gone to the vast lands where the Roman Empire had walked and where the Roman Empire had conquered. Now Islam had gone to lands that vast. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, was he the leader only of the area of Mecca and Medina, or was he the leader of even more countries? In the world today, when somebody is the leader of more than one country, not just their own, when their country has strangleholds in other countries, you rarely see that those leaders are humble. They tend to be arrogant. Wouldn't you agree? Us as humans, what are we looking for? We're looking for a leader who is a humble leader. A leader who, if I'm a Christian living in a Muslim country, I can look at that Muslim leader and say, he's such a merciful human being. He's a man who cares about all of humanity. Because the reality is, the Christians are my brethren. But it's one thing me saying it, it's another when the leader establishes it. The Jews are my brethren. They are all people of the book. The Zoroastrians, the Buddhists, for example, others, they may not in some cases with Buddhists and Hindus, maybe people of the book, but what if they're still living in my country? There are Muslims now, Muslim majority countries, for example, like Oman. Oman, the capital Muscat, there are people who are Hindus, Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, they're all living there. When they all live there, a good leader is one who looks after the rights of all of the citizens. Isn't that true? Should I come to a Christian living in a Muslim country and say, you know what, because you're Christian, I'm going to look down at you? Or should I show the best akhlaq to the Christian? When I'm a leader, therefore, I have to make sure that part of my leadership dictates that people feel I am not above them, but rather that I am one of them. That the people feel that if there is something which is unjust in the country, that we will be the first to hear the cries of the people. Imam Ali, therefore, in letter 53 of Nahjul Balagha, Imam Ali writes this when Malik al-Ashtar gets appointed where? Malik al-Ashtar appointed as the governor of Egypt and the surrounding areas. Position of Muhammad, son of Abu Bakr, had become precarious. Imam Ali appoints Malik al-Ashtar to be where? Governor of Egypt. I don't know how many people in the crowd have been to Egypt, but in Egypt we have majority of the people are Muslim, but you have a very strong Christian Coptic community. Yes. How many of you may have friends from Egypt who are Christians? In Iraq, we have friends who are Christians. In Syria, we have friends who are Christians. In Lebanon, we have friends who are Christians. In the Muslim majority countries, there are many Muslims and Christians who live together side by side. If I go to West Africa, I see in Nigeria, there are Muslims and Christians. In Senegal, there are Muslims and Christians. In the Ivory Coast, there are Muslims and Christians. In Angola, there are Muslims and Christians. If I go to East Africa, I see that there are people who are Muslims and Christians living in the same country. For example, in Tanzania, there are Muslims and Christians. For example, in Uganda, there are Muslims and Christians. For example, in Kenya, there are Muslims and Christians. This document from Nahjul Balagha, letter 53, was Imam Ali alayhi salam highlighting to Malik that Malik, now that I've appointed you as governor of Egypt, there is a certain responsibility that I as a leader have, that you as a governor have, and that we must look after the interests of the people that we govern. You know why this letter is applicable in 2023? Because of all the countries that I mentioned to you. There are Muslims and Christians living together. But how many Christians have we shown this letter to? To show them that if someone from the grandsons of Imam Ali alayhi salam was to one day come and lead the community, this is the way that he would see the members of that state. Let's begin by looking at some of the lessons of leadership from this one letter in Nahjul Balagha. How does the letter begin? In the name of Allah, the compassionate, the most merciful. Whatever action you perform, you always begin with what statement? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Anything you perform, you remember in the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. Why? Because you want to make sure that whatever action you're about to perform is an action which is blessed. He begins in the name of God, the most compassionate, the most merciful. This is what Allah's servant Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen. Why doesn't he say this is what Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali, servant of Allah? Why does he begin, this is what Allah's servant Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen. In English, what does that mean? This is what Allah's servant Ali, the what? The prince of the believers, or the master of the believers. Why does Imam Ali begin, this is what Allah's servant Ali, Amir al-Mu'mineen? Why begin with Allah's servant? Because being the abd of Allah is the highest position in Islam. Being a servant of Allah is the highest position you can reach. Someone says, what do you mean? All of you, I want to reflect on one thing. In your salah, when you pray and you're doing tashahhud, read with me how you recite tashahhud in salah. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Wa ashhadu, read with me. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. What's first? Rasul or abd? Why doesn't it say ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah? Why does it say ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh? Because Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, the Prophet Muhammad would always highlight, our biggest honor is to be servants of Allah. When a person is humble enough to say that all I am is a servant of God, that person will not treat the members of that group, that company, that business, that country as a leader who's arrogant. Because that person will remember whatever name is next to my name, ultimately there is no honor like being the abd of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him and his family, with all his greatness, could be known as what? Abd of Allah before Rasul in the tashahhud, then Imam Ali highlights here, this is what Allah's servant, and today you'll have some leaders say, this is what the CEO of the company, His Royal Highness, the greatest man to have ever walked on this earth, and then they put the name. How many times do you see people saying that first say that King so-and-so? Make sure you put the title first. Imam Ali says a great leader is one who recognizes first that they are a servant of God. When they are a servant of God, then whatever decisions they're going to make as a leader, They're always thinking about what God makes of that decision, what God thinks of that decision, and that they'll always be accountable for that decision. So the first lesson to be learned from the letter is what? Is that Imam Ali alayhi salam makes clear, although I am Khalifa of a vast empire, if I want, I could have any house, any palace, I could have the biggest land in the whole of this empire. At that time, no one would mess with Islam. When Imam Ali became Khalifa, no one would mess with Islam. So you'd think that Imam Ali should have at least the name King Ali, true? Or His Royal Highness Ali. No. This is what Ali, servant of who? This is Ali, servant of Allah, then Amir al-Mu'mineen. First lesson. The second lesson from this letter is what? He first begins by saying this is what Allah's servant Ali Amir al-Mu'mineen has ordered Malik ibn al-Harith al-Ashtar in his instrument of appointment for him when he made him his governor of Egypt for the collection of its revenues, fighting against its enemies, seeking the good of its people and making its cities prosperous. He tells him to make sure that always continuously keep your heart pure. Whatever you do as a leader, O Malik, never ever let your heart's direction leave other than looking after your people. He orders him to break his heart off from passions, to restrain it at the time of their increase, because the heart leads towards evil unless Allah has mercy. Of course, when we talk about heart in Nahjul Balagha on the Quran, we don't mean this heart and the biological, physical heart. We mean the seat of intellect or the seat of emotion. This heart, when you're a leader, this heart can either submit to your desires or can submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. At any second, this heart, and that's why do we always read the dua? Ya muqallib al-qulub, O you who rotates the heart. Thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Cement my heart on your religion. Because the heart, the worst feeling, is if the heart has a disease. In the Quran, God talks of what? Fi qulubihim marad. In their hearts there are diseases. We're not talking the physical heart. But it's amazing how many human beings are more concerned about the state of their physical heart and not having a heart attack and not questioning and reflecting on the heart that is the seat of intellect and reflection. Imam then tells him, lesson number two in leadership, then know, O Malik, that I have sent you to an area where there have been governments before you, both just governments as well as oppressive. People will now watch your dealings as you used to watch the dealings of the rulers before you, and the people will criticize you as you criticize them. Surely the virtuous are known by the reputation that Allah circulates for them through the tongues of His creatures. What's Imam saying here? That when you become a leader, do not neglect the actions or the history of the leaders who've come before you. Because sometimes you might become a leader of a business and people tell you, listen, you know the man who was here before you? Or you know the lady who was here before you? This is what they did. And you're like, I'm not interested. No one can teach me anything. No. Imam Ali says to Malik, the second lesson in leadership is what? The second lesson is that Malik, I've sent you to an area where there have been leaders before you. Don't think you're something amazing that you're all going there as a leader. There's been leaders who've come before you. Because sometimes when you become a leader, you're thinking, you know what, no one's like me. La Baba, there are many who have come before you and there might be many who come after you. He makes it clear, study the actions of the leaders before you. Sometimes those leaders were oppressive. Sometimes they were just. Some leaders have many negatives and a few positives. Some leaders have many positives and a few negatives. Study the action of leaders who've come before you. Imagine now you became headmaster of a school. Imagine now you became CEO of business. You either can say, I'm the only one who knows how to lead, or you could say, let me see the policies of the leader before me. Who was the principal before me? Who was the head teacher before me? Who was the governor before me? What did they do? Just because I've become leader doesn't mean I don't think of studying the actions of those before me. Then the next lesson, what does he say? He says the next line, which is one of the most beautiful lines when you are a leader. Malik, people are of two kinds. They are either your brother in religion, your brother in faith, or your equals in humanity. Remember, Malik had gone to become leader in Egypt. Egypt, did we say it's only Muslim or Muslim and Christian? What did we say? Egypt is Muslim only or Muslim and Christian? Muslim and Christian. If now I become leader of a country where there are Muslims and Christians, I could either say, this group are Muslims, these are Christians. Or I could say what Imam Ali said wonderfully, Wallah. And I repeat this over and over again. If this is the one line you ever learn in your life from Nahjul Balagha, this is enough for you to live a good life. That human beings are either of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or your equals in humanity. I ask you, if this one line was taught to presidents and prime ministers in the world, would we have the amount of bloodshed and war that we have? What are most of the wars based on? Some people say the wars are all because of religion. No, there are certain countries which were involved in war, which were secular atheists. They had nothing to do with religion. But there is no doubt that there are some people who claim to represent religion, who have abused religion as leaders for their own political goals. That exists. But if there's one remedy, it's Ali ibn Abi Talib's leadership line. That when you lead an area, there are either people who are Muslim like you, they are your brothers in faith. He doesn't say Shia like you, or Sunni like you, or Salafi like you, or Wahhabi like you. He says they are either your brothers in faith, which means that we may all come under the banner of the religion of Islam. If I live in a Shia majority country, I still have to honor the rights of non-Shia. And if I live in a Sunni majority country, I should honor the rights of the non-Sunni. Because ultimately we all, in one way or the other, try and understand the theological concept of what? Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We all try and follow that message. Imam Ali alayhi salam says, Malik, in Egypt, the people are of two types. They are either your brothers in faith or they are your equals in humanity. Someone who's my friend but they're Hindu. I've got a friend who was with me from university days. They're Hindu. If they're not my brothers in faith, what are they? My equals in humanity. I work for a business. The majority of staff are Muslim, but there are some who are Christian. They are either my brothers in faith or they're my equals in humanity. This message, brothers in faith or equals in humanity, if someone said to me, the whole of Islam is in this line in Nahjul Balagha, I would say I agree. That if you want to see humanity in a leader, it's Imam Ali telling Malik, in Egypt, people are of two types. They're your brothers in faith or they're your equals in humanity. How many times have you sometimes met people who are not Muslim? They are more Muslim than your fellow Muslims. How many times? In your life, have you met somebody, he's not Muslim, but his behavior is like a Muslim? And how many times have you met people who are Muslims, but their behavior is far away from Islam? Imam Ali alayhi salam wanted to highlight that when we become leaders, whatever religion we're from, that should not stop us understanding the world in this way. People are all one human family. They are either our brethren in faith or our equals in humanity. Then he continues, the fourth great sign of a leader is what? That because they are all humans, they are not ma'soom, they are not infallible. So he says to him, they will commit slips and encounter mistakes. They may act wrongly, willfully or by neglect. So extend to them your forgiveness and pardon in the same way as you would like Allah to extend His forgiveness and pardon to you. Because you are over them and your responsible commander, Imam, is over you, while Allah is over him who has appointed him. Allah has sought you to manage their affairs and has tested you through your behavior with them. When you are a leader and someone makes a mistake, do you straight away say to him, get out? Or do you say, you know what? You're a human. You could make a mistake. One of the worst behaviors of a leader is when they cancel a person because he made one slip, one error, one mistake, and they show no mercy whatsoever. There are some leaders, even in their own governments, if there is one person who's made a mistake, the next week you hear the person got shot. There are some leaders, one person commits a slip, automatically becomes their enemy. Imam Ali says, forgive them the way you want Allah to forgive you. Are we infallible, all of us? Have we never made a mistake? No. So therefore, when I see as a leader, someone in my company, they dropped the glass of water, for example, or someone in my company, they were picking something up and it fell. Sometimes even I see when you go to restaurants, there are leaders in a restaurant. There might be a manager of a restaurant. Someone drops something, that person is sacked straight away. Baba, people make mistakes. Forgive those mistakes in the way that you'd want your mistakes to be forgiven. Then he says, I have been given authority. He says this very important line, when you are a leader, make sure you do this. Do not act hastily during anger if you can find a way out. And do not say to the people, I've been given authority, I should be obeyed when I order, because it engenders confusion in the heart, weakens the religion, and takes one near ruin. Sometimes arrogance as a leader does not make your staff or your people or your ministers come close to you. A person who's merciful as a leader, people get closer to them. But if you turn around to people and say, you know what, people, I'm the one given authority, I should be obeyed when I order you, the people slowly start getting confused about your character, about your behavior. Remember, Imam Ali alayhi salam writes this shortly after Uthman, the third caliph, had been killed. And one of the reasons that Uthman had been killed was because his leadership style was a style where he was in some cases ready to turn around to those who were sincere advisors and look down at them. Imam Ali alayhi salam turned around in this line. He said, a great leader is one who doesn't act hastily when they are angry. Imam Ali has this lovely line. He says, do not make promises when you are happy, and do not make decisions when you are angry. How many of us, when we're in a really happy mood, we're like, wallah, I'll buy you the whole dunya. Anything you want, I'll do, because you're in a really happy mood. Imam Ali says, don't make promises when you're happy. And do not make decisions when you are angry. You're the leader. When you are a leader and you're angry and someone tells you, say something, do something. Wallah, I've seen leaders of big centers, leaders of big corporations. One moment of anger, they acted hastily. They destroyed all of their hard work that they had done. One moment of anger. Instead of that person saying, let's sleep on this. People, because sometimes leaders, it's all about who their advisors are. You have a good advisor, that advisor will say, listen, don't act right now. Be patient, go home, sleep on it. And then tomorrow is another day. We'll reflect on what's been done. But the worst advisors are the ones who make you as a leader act hastily when what? When you should really be calm. And that's why Imam Ali continues with the next lesson. The one among the people under you who is furthest from you and the worst of them in your view should be he who is the most inquisitive of the shortcomings of people. You as a leader, if you've got someone next to you who goes, bro, tell me what happened in their family. Tell me what happened in their house. Tell me, what did he say wrong? Tell me what happened in the meetings. Don't you as a leader keep those types of people. Because those, if they're stabbing those people behind their back, they're going to stab you one day behind your back as well. Sometimes you have people come and say to you, bro, did you hear what happened? Can you tell me more? That means when he's telling you that means others, he'll rip you behind your back as well. Here, Imam Ali says, the one amongst the people under you, O Malik, you are a leader. The one under you who is furthest from you and the worst of them in your view should be who? Hold on, someone says, but a leader should never look at people being the worst. No. The worst of them is the one most inquisitive of the shortcomings of people. Because people do have shortcomings and the ruler is the most appropriate person to cover them. Why? Why should I as a leader, if my assistant, my minister, they have a shortcoming, they have a marriage problem at home, why should I as a leader cover that? For what reason? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Sattar al-Uyub. He covers my faults. So I should be looking to cover the faults of others as well. I shouldn't be a leader who allows people around me to expose the faults of everybody. I should be a leader when I look at the people around me. They are the people who say, listen, in the same way Allah has covered our faults, we should cover the faults of others as well. One lesson which is of the utmost importance is that when you become leader of a community and you have people around you who open up the faults of everyone's personal life, that person should be the furthest away from you. That's why Imam says, therefore cover shortcomings so far as you can. Because most governments, most ministers, you'll find leaders who love to listen to the negatives of other human beings, not their positives. They want people to pry into the lives of others and find their shortcomings. Imam Ali says that's not a sign of a good leader. A good leader covers the faults of others and keeps away from them those who have the big mouths that are exposing everybody who is around them. Then Imam Ali turns around, he says, the worst minister for you is he who has been a minister for a mischievous person before you and who joined them in sins. Therefore, he should not be your chief man because they are abettors of sinners and brothers of oppressors. Allahu Akbar. How many times you hear about a government, and that government now in the ministry, there are people who served the government before that government who were known to be vile, oppressive, had tortured people, and now you hear this guy's become Minister of Security, Minister of Economic Affairs. Wallah, there are certain countries. I hear, for example, in Iraq, I hear in Pakistan, I hear in others, where they put people in power, in positions, those people in the regime before this one had been known to be part of the help of the previous regime, and now all of a sudden this guy's become minister. And not just become minister, they've given him the highest position. Imam Ali says, what are you doing? The worst minister for you is he who has been a minister for a mischievous person before you and who joined them in sins. You can find good substitutes for them who will be like them in their views and influence while not being like them in their sins and their vices. Is there no one left in the country except this person? There's no one else you could have put it as a minister except this person? Are there no substitutes for these people who could exert the same influence but without being those who have a CV of oppression and of torture? Then Imam continues, another lesson in leadership. The virtuous and the vicious should not be in equal position before you, because this means dissuasion of the virtuous from virtue and persuasion of the vicious to vice. Imagine you've got two ministers. One of them bullies everyone, and the other one's kind and gentle and humane with everyone, and you end up treating them both the same. Baba, this one's bullying the whole company. This one's bullying the whole school. This one's bullying the whole team. This one's bullying the whole government, the whole state. This other one is someone who has the cleanest reputation, the best akhlaq, the best manners. Imam Ali says, don't treat both of them the same. Do you know why? Because it means dissuasion of the virtuous from the virtue. The one who's good is like, why should I be acting good if I'm going to be treated the same as the one who's acting bad? And persuasion of the vicious to vice. The one who's vicious will be like, listen, no one even says anything to me. I go around bullying everyone and no one says anything. A true leader keeps everyone in the position which is his. And that's why equality, equity, justice, all of these are terms in their own position. Then what does Imam Ali say? He says that there are classes of people that you should never forget. Know that the people consist of classes who prosper only with the help of one another, and they are not independent of one another. Amongst them are the army of God, the secretarial workers of the common people and the chiefs, the dispensers of justice, those engaged in law and order, the payers of head tax, jizya, and the land tax from the protected unbelievers and the common Muslims. There are the traders and the men of industry and the lowest class of the needy and destitute. Allah has fixed the share of every one of them and laid down precepts about them in the Quran and the Sunnah. What's Imam Ali showing here? A leader is never great because of themselves. Every part of the system is important for that leadership to be successful. Because, if I'm prime minister or if I'm president, do I care about you who's sweeping the streets? You'll find some who's not even interested. Those people are sweeping the streets. This one, for example, is someone who works in the local council. This one, for example, works in the local area giving out driving licenses. A true leader recognizes that in the system, every part has to be appreciated. A leader, how many times do you see prime ministers or presidents going to visit the local hospital or going to visit an area where they've just opened, for example, a clinic? Why do they do that? Why do great leaders go and visit every area and show consideration for every area? For what reason? It's because you will show that this leadership is not about me. A CEO or a president of a company, if he doesn't go and visit the secretaries in that company, believe you me, one day they are doomed to failure. One day there will be a day where their whole system will fall. Why will it fall? Imam Ali answers here. He says, do not neglect the secretarial workers, the dispensers of justice, those engaged in law and order, the payers of the head tax and the land tax, the traders, the men of industry, the lowest class of people. Wallah, even you show me a job in this country, the lowest pay, the lowest class, a true leader will still be interested in those people. Why? If those people stop coming to work, will the country's economy rise or fall? If the sweeper of the streets stop coming to work, what will happen? The streets will be full of what? One of the worst feelings for a human being, I don't care what anyone says, is when there is an area full of litter and trash. Isn't that true? When you walk in a road and there's litter and trash everywhere. Now you tell me, the president or the CEO or the governor, that president or CEO or governor, who cares if he lives in a mansion or a state house if the roads are all dirty? That leader, therefore, has to be a leader who makes sure they do what? Who makes sure that they are a leader who recognizes every single spectrum of society. And that's why the letter continues. And of course, adhan time comes, but the letter continues with Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam going to every spectrum and every sector in his government. He discusses, and all of you inshallah will continue to look at this wherever you may be. He discusses the importance of the army. Go and ask Pakistan. He discusses the importance of the chief judge. He discusses the importance of executive offices, the administration of revenues, the clerical establishment, traders, industrialists, and the lowest class. And credit to Malik al-Ashtar, because Malik, when Imam Ali trusted him with this, is because of Malik's sincerity. Imam knew that it's not anyone who takes advice from a leader unless that person is a man of sincerity. And that's why I leave you with this one line at the end of Nahjul Balagha. Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam, when he remembers all of what took place in his time, he mentions very clearly to everybody the importance of the likes of Malik al-Ashtar in his life, and how Malik al-Ashtar was somebody who ensured that this particular religion and that particular leadership remained a leadership which was a leadership of justice and a leadership of humanity. Towards the end of Nahj al-Balagha, Imam Ali alayhi salam praises Malik al-Ashtar and ensures that everybody remains remembering Malik when he says, when he heard the news of Malik's death, Malik, what a man Malik was. Saying 452, by Allah, if he had been a mountain, he would have been a big one. And if he had been a stone, he would have been hard. No horseman could have reached it and no bird could have flown over it. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
Imam Hussain Charity is giving you the chance to provide food baskets for destitute and impoverished families all over Iraq and Afghanistan. So let's see what your donation gets, Ali. We have oil, tomato paste, we have tahini, lentils, sugar, tea, pasta, tuna cans, salt, dates, rice. She would also be receiving fruit, vegetable and meats, and that comes fresh on the day delivery and only costs £30. Brothers and sisters, you can pay via bank transfer, PayPal, or you can visit www.imamhussaincharity.com.
Your donation can make a world of difference in the life of a hungry child.
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। डिस्ट्रिक्ट कंबर शदाद कोट तहसील गढ़ी खिरो गोठ आदम खान गोपांग।
अस्सलाम वालेकुम या अली मदद साईं। सही असां वेठा आहियूं ज़िलो कंबर शदाद कोट में, तालको सिजावल चुणे जो धिंगाणो कोट धिंगाणो लाल बश बहेसर। असांजे ॻोठ आदम खान गोपांग लॻ मुज़फ़र अहमद गोपांग। साईं असांखे पाणी जो ॾाढो आज़ार आहे। असां पाणी तमामु परे खां भरे था अचूं। गुलशाह पीर लॻ असांजो उतो भरे ईंदा 3 किलोमीटर आहे परे असांखां। साईं असांजे हिते आबादी बि न आहे। असां हिते कुर्मत कंदा आहियूं, मज़दूरी करे कुर्मत करे खाईंदा आहियूं। पाणी ॾिसो था असांजे ज़मीन ते अञा ताईं बीठो आहे, हिते फसल बि न आहे, हालात ख़राबु आहिनि। तो पाणी जी ॾाढी असांखे तकलीफ़ आहे। असांजा बच्चा ॾाढा ॾुखिया आहिनि। जेका बि महिरबानी पुॼे असां सां मदद कई वञे। सो हे असां ॾिसो साईं पाणी किथां भरे आया आहियूं। गुलशाह पीर सरबो असांजे पाड़े में 3 किलोमीटर परे आहे, उते पाणी आहे, उतां पाणी भरे था अचूं। हिते असां में वेझे हिते पाणी ज़मीननि में वेझे मिठो न आहे, परे आहे 20-2200 फुट पाणी परे आहे, उते मिठो आहे। का बि महिरबानी तव्हांखे पुॼे त असांखे परे खां पाणी छिके हिते वेझे मिठो पाणी पहुचाए ॾियो। असांजा बच्चा बि तव्हांखे दुआयूं कंदा साईं। मौला हुसैन जे सदके असां सां महिरबानी कयो। जेका बि तव्हां महिरबानी कयो असांखे परे खां पाणी छिके हिते वेझे आणे ॾियो। असांजा बच्चा सुखिया थींदा, तव्हांखे दुआ कंदा साईं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम या अली मदद साईं।